This is the Man in a Room podcast.
I don't care what you say, you can be the most chilled out, zen type of person in the world. Nothing riles you up. There's going to be one thing that'll annoy everybody on the planet, and that's when someone tells you to chop chop. It's like, I'll chop you in a minute. Hello and thank you for joining me for this episode of Man in a Room on this very lovely Tuesday. Are Tuesdays lovely? They're not really anything really, are they? They're not quite the beginning. They're not really anything of the week. But here I am. I can't promise anything good this week, because I think it's best to set the bar low when you come into this. That way you can't be disappointed. And if the bar is low and you are still disappointed, that's on you. You were warned, Anyway, I watched a film the other day called Mary and the Witch's Flower, which is quite interesting. It's like a Japanese film. And I really enjoyed it. It's just a bit of a strange one. It's just about this young girl who finds a flower that gives her the powers of a witch. And the thing that struck me about it was she was very quick to just like, oh, I can jump on my broom and I'm going to fly around the place. How insane is that? If someone gave you a broom, right, and we're like, hey, do you know what, this broom here, if you get on it, if you sit on it, if you straddle it, yeah, you can fly around wherever you want. High as you want, fast as you like, Doesn't really matter. You'd be like, no, I'm not going to do what? No? Are you insane? You would never ever catch me on a broom. It's just, no, you wouldn't. I'm sorry, but there's literally nothing to hold on to, really. And, it'd be uncomfortable mainly. Because there was a bit in Bed Knobs and Broomsticks, you see. Because I watched that recently as well, because I've been going for a lot of films recently. Just going for the old classics, because it's nice seeing them in HD. I'm going to go on a limb here and say I much preferred Bed Knobs and Broomsticks to Mary Poppins. Although I do love Mary Poppins, don't get me wrong, and I shouldn't really be saying them in the same breath. Although, I like Bed Knobs and Broomsticks because it's a 70s film. It's a bit goofy, more my sort of style. And there's a bit in there where she sits in it sideways, which I'm thinking, I wouldn't do that either. Because, it may not be ladylike to sit on a broom like normal, like straddling it. But at the same time, that's even worse in my head. There's many problems with Bed Knobs and Broomsticks. Now, don't get me wrong, I do love this film. But there's just so many things about that. Like, she's like, oh, yeah, I got my broom, perfect. Grasp the broom and off you go. You kick off, and all that kind of stuff, it's fine. No, that's not how that works. You must need training. I mean, if you need to be trained to ride a motorcycle, I think a witch's broom is one of those things you need to be trained on. She doesn't want any safety gear. Oh, a witch's hat, oh yeah. No, magic won't protect you either, falling from a great height. You'll just splat on the floor. Have you ever seen a flat witch? Well, you will. But there's so many problems with that film. Not that I'm sort of taking notes on this. But so basically, if you've not seen it, shame on you, because it's great. But basically, what happens is it's set in the Second World War, and these three kids from London get taken away to be safe in the countryside, where Miss Eglantine Price is there, and to protect them, you see. And they're like, yeah, let's go back to London. We don't want to be around her. She's weird. So they sort of make plans to go, and as they're making their way to leave, they find her like flying around on a broom. And you're thinking, hang on a second, that's a bit weird, isn't it? Run for your life. There's a woman who's flying around. She's a witch. This is set in the 1940s, The next morning, if you don't do what we say, we're going to tell everyone that you're a witch. It's like, and she's like, well, I could turn you into a frog. What are you being so la-di-da about it? I could turn you into a frog right now, buddy boy. And then you'd be laughing on the other side of your face with your very wide mouth. But it doesn't obviously happen that way. I don't want to go into too much detail about the actual things. But one of the scenes that sort of frustrates me about that film is the bit when they, she's like, they have to have a pact between them, like a valuable gift. So basically she gives them a valuable gift, and if they squeal on her, they have to give the very valuable gift back to her, you see. It's very smart, you see. And so they go through this kid's like going through his pockets. He's like got a bit of string, bit of glass, and all that kind of stuff. He's got this weird stuff in his pockets. Now, one of the things, well, you got broken glass in your pocket. It looks a very pretty colour, don't get me wrong. But it's sharp. Lovely bit of string. And then he pulls out the bed knob, right? And the reason why I mention this is because the bed knob actually belongs to her, because it's her bed. I think it's from her father's bed, if I remember correctly. And the idea is like, oh yeah, it's my the famous line, it's my knob, And so she basically enchants it, and even though it is technically hers, she's like, oh no, it belongs to Paul. This belongs to Paul, this knob, So he's the only one who can control it. You trust a boy who, I don't know how old he is, but I think he's like 7 or something like that. He's like 6 or 7, and you're trusting him to be in charge of a flying bed. Which, we won't go into the safety points of that. But I'll say it's a lot safer than a witch's broom. But, won't go into that. But I just find the idea of flying around the broom startling. I mean, I've never even flown in a plane. Never even sat in a plane. I know what you're saying right now. Why do you even sit in a plane for? And yes, that is from the royal family. But I'm hoping that most people don't remember that line when the old lady goes, I've never even sat on a plane, and then Jim's all like, what do you want to sit in a plane for? Yes, you would never catch me on a witch's broom if such a thing existed. Never in a million years would you see me straddling a broom and flying around the countryside, because it's just too dangerous. And in fact, it just proves it. If you watch Mary and the Witch's Flower, she starts hurtling towards the floor, but she keeps her cool somehow. I'm like, how on earth are you keeping cool? Because you are literally going to splat on the floor. It'll be like a breadstick in a blender. That's what that'll be like. Shattered to pieces. Anyway, I'm going to have a quick break because I'm thirsty as heck. And really, that's none of your business. So, I'll be back after this very short break.
If you have any thoughts, comments, or questions, please do not hesitate to send them to show@maninaroom.co.uk.
As I've gotten older, I've found that my memory has started to fail somewhat. When you see on TV when people have like a memory or a dream sequence, and it just goes a bit sort of cloudy and fluffy around the edges, and it's not quite like fully there. It's like that in real life. It's very strange. And something popped into my head recently, and I want to share it with you. Main reason is because I want to get a record of it myself in case I forget it again. It just literally, clear as day, came back to me. It was like, oh my goodness, I remember all this. And yeah. So many years ago, I used to live in a small village where, just village life. I don't know if you've ever experienced living in a village. There's literally nothing to do apart from waiting at a bus stop. I've mentioned that before. And obviously feeding ducks and the occasional fun fair that would come. Other than that, there's nothing to do. And I remember when I was a kid, there used to be this couple that used to live in the village. I don't know what ever happened to them. I'm assuming they're dead now, which is quite sad to say, but it was about 30 years ago this happened. I need to ask where they are, actually. I'll ask my mum next time over. And their names were John and Mavis, and they were sort of this kind of eccentric couple, like this posh couple that sort of lived in the village, and they were always there at any sort of get together, be it the Christingle service, be it a jumble sale, the school fete, or anything like that. They'd always be there, and they'd always be very nice and always laughing, and sort of he'd be making fun of her and she'd be making fun of him, that kind of stuff. That's that kind of classic old eccentric couple that most people know when they're a kid. They're always just nice. Do you know what I mean? Never had any kids. But, they were nice. They were nice people. And I remember that Mavis used to have this obsession with hedgehogs. Because I remember she used to have like a jumper. This was like a hand-knitted jumper, because back in the day, people didn't used to buy like clothing. They'd have like T-shirts, and they wouldn't buy like sweatshirts. They'd have like hand-knitted stuff, and they had like this like hedgehogs and all that kind of stuff over it. Because she loved them. And it used to be like a running joke. Her husband, she's bought another ruddy hedgehog. This kind of stuff. And I remember, obviously, being very young, it turns out that she had like a box in the back of her garden that she had in case there were hedgehogs around, so she'd be able to feed them and nurture them and sort of look after them, And I sort of remember this because I remember very excitedly once that she told my mum, because we were in the shop one day, that there's a hedgehog in the little box in her garden. Like the nest box. I don't know what it's called. I think it's like a nest box. It's basically just imagine like a box with like a tube going into it. So basically it's all like hay and other bits and pieces in it. They just crawl in there and they go to sleep in there, It's like a nice place where cats can't get in, And she was very excited because she actually had an actual hedgehog in her garden. She was so excited about this. So she said to my mum about it, and I remember being excited about it. Because I've never seen a hedgehog in my life at this point. Because, if you see them in, like, cartoons and stuff like that, you see, like, Mrs. Tiddywinkle. Is it Mrs. Tiggy? And, it's exciting, to imagine sort of, like, this little hedgehog sort of scurrying around with a little apron on. Obviously not an apron, but, as a kid, your mind sort of goes away with it. So you think, oh, this is exciting, isn't it? An animal I've never seen before. And a hedgehog. It's just got this, you don't see this in real life ever. And I remember her saying to my mum, "Oh, you can come over and see it if you like. I'll be come in the afternoon after school, and then we'll check out the hedgehog." I remember just thinking about this hedgehog, and thinking, "Oh, well, I can't wait to see this hedgehog. It's gonna be great." Just remember this, it's looking forward to it, and so I remember the afternoon came. This is so vivid, like I just remember it, and I remember sort of going out to her house, and she had like this white gate. This wooden sort of white gate that had like one of those, I don't know, there's like a little, it wasn't locked. It's not like a proper, this is back, like I say, this is years ago. People didn't lock stuff. So you open them, remember the little click, and then you sort of open the gate. And then she was in her conservatory. And in her conservatory, I remember there sort of been all these plants. She was growing tomatoes in her conservatory because I remember sort of walking in there, just the smell of tomatoes. I think they were Italian tomatoes, possibly, because I think they were like a yellowy colour. That's when she said they were Italian. I don't know if such a thing exists. They probably do. But I remember she gave me one. I was like, oh, that's nice. And I remember I was sort of excitedly sort of running around, sort of like can't wait to show somebody her hedgehog. And so my mum was chatting with her all this kind of stuff, and we were looking out the window just trying to see if I could see the hedgehog, but I didn't. And I was sort of like, well, do you want to go see the hedgehog? Like, yeah, let's go. And then I remember sort of leaving the conservatory, and there's all these flowers. Like, so many flowers. Like, she properly cared for her garden. Like, you remember there's sort of lavender and all just different flowers. I remember sort of just all the plants seemed like really massive, but obviously in hindsight they probably weren't because I was actually quite young. And I remember just being excited. I remember it was a sunny day. And just a nice sort of time was being had by me. This is nice because it's sort of when you see somebody on like a regular basis and you don't quite you don't really know how they live. But it's sort of nice seeing that like an extra part of this person's character. It's actually really nice. And so her excitement was really infectious. And she's like, "Come on, let's have a look." And she says, "We've got to be very quiet. We don't scare it." So we're sort of like walking down there, sort of quietly, sort of like. Literally trying my hardest to contain my excitement about this. And I remember sort of approaching the box, and she goes, if you sort of kneel down, you can sort of look up there, you can just see it at the back. And so I sort of got down. I couldn't really see it because it's too dark. Because it's dark. The hedgehog's probably like the dark. You see. So anyway, I sort of like, okay. So I don't remember. I couldn't really see it, and I was like, I can't really see it. And my mum sort of had a look, and she was all like, I can't really see. And so someone was like, I probably shouldn't, but I want to lift up the lid just to see. And so she's very sort of careful. I remember sort of nervously. So I'd be, no, we don't want to scare it. It might run. So obviously be careful. I remember sort of like getting behind my mum just in case it runs out. Because if you're getting warned as a child, you take it very seriously. So sort of very gently lifted up the. When she had this little thing, like this lock on it, so she sort of did this little thing on it, so she lifted the lid up very slowly. And I remember just how careful she was being, because she didn't want to scare this little hedgehog, because she was so made up, and I was like, wow. So she lifted it up, and then she's like, she couldn't really see it, and I'm like, she said, oh, it might have gone away. And I was like, oh, okay. So a little bit disappointed, And then my mum was like, no, it's there. I can see it. It's there. And so she sort of very gently sort of got like a stick and sort of moved a little bit of the bedding, sort of the hay, away, just to don't want to disturb it too much. It's obviously going to be scared. It doesn't want a human. It's massive. So she gently moves it, and we sort of just stood there for a second and looked at this hedgehog, and it wasn't a hedgehog. It was a hairbrush with some googly eyes attached to it. Her husband, John, who's always making fun of her, thought it'd be really, really amusing to put an old hairbrush in there with some googly eyes in there to fool her. And she thought she was very angry about it because that ruddy John. And I remember my mum sort of being like, "Oh, it's just maybe got a bit weird, you know." And she obviously laughed about it. She's, "I'll get him back for this, John." I said that he's got me back because I remember a while back they're growing the tomatoes, right? So basically what happened was he was growing these tomatoes in the conservatory. And as a joke, she bought some tomatoes and she sowed some tomatoes. She got up in the morning, right? She said this, and she sowed on some tomatoes onto his plants. And he's like, "Wow, they come overnight." And that was vengeance for that. And it just literally, that I remember it, I can visualize it right now. I can literally see this hedgehog. Well, it's not really, it's a hairbrush with these stupid googly eyes on it. And, yeah, I forgot all about that until very recently, and I thought I'll just share that with you because it just made me laugh. Chuckled. I remember, you know, it's just one of those memories that just came back to me out of the blue one day. I was like, wow, look at that. Yep. The many layers, the onion layers of the man in a room. Huh? Childhood memory there for you. Anyway, do you know what? I need a cup of tea. I need a cup of tea and a sit down, although I am sitting down. But, you know, so I'm going to do that now. And do you know what? You should go check out maninaroom.co.uk because it's pretty neat. Also go check out patreon.com/maninaroom because there's all stuff on there. I recommend it. If I wasn't the person doing the Patreon, I'd join this Patreon because do you know what? It's got so much stuff in it. There's archive stuff. You get episodes before. And it's just so much stuff. There's actually too much content on there. For $1 a month, you're like, this is too much. He's getting nothing out of this. But do you know what? I do it because I enjoy it. So anyway, I'll catch you again on Thursday. Not Thursday, what am I thinking? I'll see you Friday. Anyway, I'll catch you again on Friday. And I'll see you then.
Who is the man? Where is the room? It's some guy you've never heard of, in a room you've never been in. For more information, head over to maninaroom.co.uk.